Hello, and welcome to a VO's Journey podcast. My name is Anthony Pica, and this show is all about helping the new and upcoming voiceover artists grow their business and sidestep all the crazy things that I seem to step on. My goodness, hot off the presses, we have an update. Something brand new has just happened. It looks like it just came across the wire that Backstage, the company, right, that primarily in the past has focused on film, TV, is now, or they have just purchased Voice123. So that is massive news for us. They've actually acquired some other companies, Film, Freeway, Coverfly, but Voice123, that's the big one for me, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. All right, let's do it.
This is VO's Journey. With your host, the incomparable Anthony Pica.
Okay, so my goodness, this is like some pretty massive news, and honestly, did not see this coming because this is like totally out of the blue. Plus, you know, Backstage kind of really, for me at least, Backstage has been that place where you go and it's, film, TV, more on the side of bigger projects, things that do not look at pay-to-play sites. So the fact that Backstage now has purchased Voice123 is really a big deal, I think. So I was looking at a couple articles, and actually it was funny because I was actually looking at this, and another one of the VO's Journey members messaged me about it, asking to post it in the group, and it came across the wire and different things. So I'm actually on some other places. Voice123 themselves, of course, had a release on their website from Rolf. Quite honestly, not a lot of information from it. I mean, he talks about that Voice123 won't change. It'll stay the same right now, with the same management, same concept, same everything, but that they're going to somehow, and they don't talk about it, leverage the large number of members that Backstage has. Now, in the past, Backstage has had a little bit of voiceover work available, but like I said, again, it was mainly film and TV. So now with, or stage. So now with adding Voice123, they really, really are upping their game. But to me, it's interesting because it's a mix of a pay-to-play site and then another site that really, was a casting site or is a casting site for agencies, agents, kind of like the other side of the industry, if you will. So like, to me, I don't know, this feels like really massive news of two parts of the industry coming together. And what's interesting to me is that this might give agents a way to use Voice123 through Backstage. How that all comes together, that's remains to be seen. But, it's a big deal because, this is the first time I know of that, like Voice123, which of course has been owned by the same people who started it back in 2003. So, I mean, it's almost been 20 years and, selling a platform as massive as Voice123 is really interesting to me. I did an article a ways back about the founders, which is Alexander Tornegra and Tanya Zapata, I think is her name, Zapata. I'm probably saying her name wrong, which is awful of me. But anyways, husband and wife, I believe, and they, he was an engineer, she was a voice actor. And I did an article, I did a lot of research on Voice123 a year or two ago about how it was started, why it was started, and of course, because remember, Voice123 was owned by Bunny Inc., okay, which owns Bunny Studios, which this does not say anything on Bunny Studios about, being anything like Bunny Studios being acquired by them. Okay. And like I'm on the Bunny Studios website and there is no announcement. There's nothing on here that talks about anything happening with Bunny Studios. So it looks like it's just Voice123. And, they basically were the first to come out. I mean, Voice123 started, or Voices.com started literally a year or under after Voice123 started, but they were, I think, the first really pay-to-play site. So this really is a big deal to me. I was reading on another article. I guess it's, I don't know, salmon or Salomon Compress or something like that. Whatever, just an article about it. And, they were talking about, they've got a quote from Rolf in here, but they're, just pointing out that, Backstage was trying, is really trying, the owners or the founders or whatever, really trying to grow with the new economy. And again, this is something that I think, we were focused earlier this year in the announcement that LinkedIn, right, was going to try to set up their own style to combat Fiverr. Okay. And that was big news, although we haven't heard anything from Microsoft, right, in LinkedIn recently. But this is a big move in the sense that Backstage now has a big chunk. They've taken a big chunk of the industry, right? And also, we talk about the other things is that Film Freeway, okay, which they've done film festivals, with brands like HBO and ESPN and Lionsgate and PBS and NPR, all kinds of different places. And Coverfly, of course, is part of discovering or at least in this article, they're improving Hollywood's talent discovery process. Now, of course, when you read these articles, they fluff up everything, right? Like they're saying Voice123 is the, first and most the first is correct, the most trusted marketplace of professional voices. I'm not sure that's accurate. I like Ralph. I love Rolf. I interviewed him on the podcast, but, I'm not sure that they can say that. And they'll say they're the biggest. It says in this article, too, they're the biggest in the world. That's not true. Fiverr is definitely at this point the largest. And for Voices is definitely has a lot more than Voice123. But, each platform is going to say, and so does Upwork, each platform is going to say they're number one. But I think that this is extremely interesting because these are big moves in my mind, just because, again, this is the first time that I've seen a company like Backstage, which is, a company that, is on that line with Hollywood and with Broadway and things like that, that actually acknowledges, right, the idea that there is this marketplace, this new world, of the freelancer, and that they even talk about how they're the owners in here were looking at the fact that there is a different, I'm trying to find the quote, the additional creative segments and allow our customers to more efficiently produce and distribute quality content at scale. And I think that's the big thing, right? It's at scale. The idea here is that they're trying to capitalize on the gig economy. And that hasn't been a part of any sort of mainstream voiceover or mainstream acting or mainstream film or TV agency company. There's always been a battle against it. And this is a real big first step in bringing those together. Now, I do think, this is going to, of course, it's just getting launched. It'll be interesting to see how this progresses over time. Like I said, Rolf said, everything's going to stay the same, but I can't imagine that this is going to, whenever there is an acquisition, a takeover, if you will, or buyout, you're going to have changes. It's going to be interesting to see how does, will Backstage link to Voice123? Also, will that membership, how will the memberships happen? What will happen over time? I don't know. Will the platforms stay the same? I'm not sure. It makes a lot of sense to me in some senses because, when we interviewed Rolf, there was a lot, it was always, I was taken back really by his, the business focus that, Bunny Inc. had with hiring him, because like he had said, he had not very much, he had no voiceover experience whatsoever before 2018 when he took over as CEO. So like it was definitely a vision, and for all we know, this was in the pipeline. This doesn't just happen, right? This took time. This probably, this could have taken a year, 2 years, or 3 years to put together, right? And so like, I'm sure they knew about it for a while. I mean, I've worked for a couple of companies that have been bought out, so I know what it's like, to work on that end, especially if you're the company being bought out, because, what happens is that, at first everything is nice. I mean, meaning like, they tell you, oh, everything's going to remain the same. Everything will be, the same. And then then the name change comes. Then there's little movements in the seniority, and then people leave. Now, this isn't a publicly traded company, or I mean, Voice123 isn't publicly traded. And I don't think Backstage is either. I don't know if any of these are publicly traded. I don't think so. I don't know the other two companies very well, but usually, there's stock buyout. People are selling, although usually when there's an acquisition that's large like this, if it has stock, there's usually a moratorium put on selling your stock. Anyways, I'm getting further beyond what we're doing. I just think this is really interesting and something that we need to keep our eyes out for, because I think that, with the purchase of this and the acquisition, we have to think about, okay, how does this affect our business model? Will it have an effect? Will it make more opportunities? Or will it, for a lot of us, and let's be honest, a lot of us have enjoyed a part of the industry who has stayed out of the gig economy, meaning like there's a lot of business here, all right? But there's also a portion of the voiceover industry who refuses to be a part of it. And I've always said that, and I've always talked, I've told this, and I've talked to people about this. I've said this, there's going to be a time, there will be a moment where the rest of the industry realizes that they can't just ignore the gig economy anymore, and they have to be a part of it. And when that happens, you're going to have a flood of a lot more voice talent that have a lot of experience. Now, I think that whether Backstage purchases, since they've purchased Voice123, nothing is going to, or at least for the time being, the price debate, none of that will change. Okay. I mean, you're still going to have the price debate probably for a long time to come. And I still think, with this move, you have to remember too, and this is another thing to think about with this move. Remember, Rolf was talking about how Voice123 was spending a lot of time and effort on AI. And I think that Backstage is making a play on AI, even though they don't mention this. Right? We knew what Rolf said about that they're putting a lot of effort into AI, and Backstage, by far, at least publicly, has been the only voiceover company of a sizable, number to actually come out and say, hey, we're going to be investing in AI, trying to help clients and the voice actors make money from AI. And I think Backstage, it would be dumb if they weren't, is going to do a play on that. So, artificial intelligence could get a boost here from, this acquisition. We'll see if that has a play in it, but they have to know. I mean, they're going to know everything about what the strategic plan is for Voice123 and whether that mixes. Now, it could be the opposite. It could be Backstage says, hey, scrap all that. That's not what we want to do. But I find that very hard to believe because there's a lot of big moves being made, because there's a lot of big money being put in and hiring really big name voice actors to use their voices, create AI voices. Okay. So, even the voices that we hear, that are the cheap, monthly subscription type things, but there's bigger ones, right? That are a lot more in depth, that cost a lot more money, that can be used. And I think that this could be an indication that the industry is doing a play on bridging the gap between, AI voiceover market and the main the other side of the industry, the film and TV and stage part of the industry. So it's just really, it really is interesting. And you have to think, for the longest time, SAG-AFTRA really, it's felt like they've just really forgotten the voiceover industry. Do you know what I mean? Most of the jobs are now non-union. Okay. I mean, that's evident. And, there's, and I'm not saying Backstage is union, but, there's a lot of stuff that goes back through Backstage, right? That is union or has those types of jobs. And I think that, this is, again, a big deal to see how they go about navigating all this and what their plan is. I mean, these preliminary announcements don't give you any information other than, for right now, everything's going to remain the same. But clearly they've got a plan, all right, to bring all these things, whether it's one master platform, okay, or just a conglomerate. I'm trying to say that word, and or something. But eventually, the plan will avail itself to us. But I do think this is a really interesting development to pay attention to, and I know that we will be hearing more and more about this as time comes, but they kept this quiet because I didn't hear anything about it from other CEOs too that I knew. We didn't hear anything about this, so they definitely kept this quiet, which they usually do with acquisitions and things like that. But I'm very surprised with this, and am I happy about it? I don't know. Yet. We'll see. You know what I mean? I mean, I do have a membership with Voice123. You guys remember I did that to see how it went. I didn't. I've not got. It's not time for me to re-up. I'm definitely not going to re-up at the 2,200 mark. And it's interesting to see what they're going. If what they do with that. It says that they're going to keep everything the same for now, but I'm interested to see how that pans out. And we don't know what's been going on financially with Voice123 either. I mean, they, of course, there's no disclosures. They don't have to disclose something if it's not publicly traded. So they don't have to disclose cost, price, anything like that. So, who knows what actually happened and why this happened. But hopefully we'll get more information down the road. But pay attention, pay close attention to what's happening, where business is flowing, what moves are being made with these companies. Because again, it's important for us as business owners to stay on top of what's happening with other businesses. And, these sites, okay, we use these sites. And if Backstage wants to make a play and say, okay, well, the way they're going to bring the industry together is buy it all. You know what I mean? It's just interesting to see. And so you got to think, so here's a perfect example. What I'm interested in is not so much Backstage, but, Fiverr, for example, if I was Fiverr, I would definitely think of the fact that, I have this website called Fiverr. It's very successful, but no matter what I do, that Fiverr, name will follow me everywhere until, the day it no longer exists, right? I mean, they can't change that. So that stigma will be with them, even though they've spent so much money and they've tried to change the mindset of Fiverr. It's just still, I mean, it's hard to get it away from the name Fiverr. Okay. So to me, it would make sense for a company like Fiverr to purchase another, higher priced, place, voiceover place. Although I will tell you that Fiverr now, most of the, or at least a good portion of voice actors on Fiverr are charging more than what they do on Voices or Voice123. Okay. But that doesn't get any acknowledgement from anyone else because, people think everyone does, a million words for $5 on Fiverr. So I just, this is interesting because to me, I wonder if with all of these companies, right, are the large companies going to start to try to buy them up? I don't know. We will see. And you got to think, if you started a company, it's nice to get a huge sum of money, I mean, this is how a lot of tech companies and work. So I don't know. We're going to stay focused on this. I'm going to keep abreast of the details, but we shall see what happens next. And and by the way, on a side note, remember Backstage acquired Mandy, okay, the Mandy network. All right, that was a big thing. So that was, you got to think Backstage has made some big acquisitions, and it's been within the last year. So they definitely making a play, sitting on cash somehow. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. Also, hey, don't forget, I know I didn't mention because I was so excited to tell you about this stuff. Don't forget to check out the Academy. And, we're definitely going to be talking about this tonight, as well as some marketing things that we're going over, some other websites and things. So definitely take a look. Love to have you be a part of the Academy. There'll be a link below. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. I will talk to you later. Peace.